Well, good morning, guys. Once again, it is I, the chairman, coming to you with another review of physical media. And I'm going to make Gator happy. I am standing farther back from the camera today, so I am not scaring him with the close-up like I did in the last video. I've just been trying to experiment with different camera positions and different positions in terms of lighting, things like that. I'm obviously no pro at all in terms of how to video myself for YouTube. So, and I don't have the best lighting conditions down here in the basement. It's all just ceiling fluorescent lighting. So, obviously, this is not a Hollywood studio. This is not a Twitch set. So, you kind of get what you get. I'm buying a light or two. See how that works. See if that makes my my mug look a little bit better on the tubes. But there's no guarantee that it will turn me into a matinee idol. But anyway, on to the video. Today I'm going to review Arrow's Children of the Corn. I said the other day that I had received it, so my son and I gave this a watch. I do have to concur with Jeff from Films at Home. This film is definitely really grainy, especially in the dark scenes. The grain is not due to a lack of quality, though, in terms of the bit rate. The bit rates are pretty high, 80s, 90s. At one time it hit 105 just looking every so often on my 4K player. But yeah, it definitely is not the sharpest of images. It looks better during the daytime scenes, but you can definitely tell this was a low budget effort. And in terms of how the film actually was, I've never seen Children of the Corn, any of the sequels, and to my recollection it obviously was part of that pantheon of classic early mid 80s horror films that ended up spawning endless sequels, turning into a franchise. But it always felt to me that Children of the Corn was kind of in the middle to lower tier, even though obviously it does have the great pedigree of being based on a short story by Stephen King, whose films have been made ad infinitum into whose books have been made ad infinitum into films over the many decades. But this story seemed to be a little kind of weak. It definitely started out better. It definitely started out better with the whole idea that these kids were just turned into a bunch of murderous religious fanatics by this Isaac guy. And then just the barest hint that there was some kind of malevolent spirit or entity behind all of this, he who walks behind the rose. It kind of added a lot of creepiness and terror and tension to the proceedings. But then towards the end of the film, it became more of a classic monster film. And this was where the film's lack of budget really let the overall story down, because not only was it just a lack of budget, it was just the available technology at the time just could not make this He Who Walks Behind the Rose look good. I mean, it was pretty comical towards the end, the effects that were utilized to envision this demon, whatever you want to call him. I don't know if he ever actually does get a name, or if he's always just called He Who Walks Behind the Rose. But it is just, it looks like someone just literally drew on top of the frame something like a face in the mushroom cloud of the fire that at the end of the film that is supposed to have consumed this He Who Walks Behind the Rose. Yeah, it looked really bad. So unfortunately, it did bring down the film quite a bit. And would I say that this film is worth $30? I mean, I don't know. I think the pricing was okay from a Arrow perspective. If you're really a big fan of this film or want to get it, I would say wait for it to go on sale. There's also a trilogy set that that Arrow have put out. The last two films, if it's based on the quality of this first film, I can't imagine that it'd be any better, and they probably aren't. So it's probably not worth your while or your money to get that trilogy. I would say definitely wait for it to go on sale, or just not get it all, like my case. I'm not interested in those sequels. So I would definitely give that set a pass if I were you. The one thing I am glad is that they didn't try to price this like their recent Dario Argento 4K sets, probably knowing that this film's I guess legacy or cult following or popularity isn't as high as they've seen with the people who have bought the previous limited edition sets that they've put out. So probably good on them for keeping the price of this relatively low. But anyway, I wanted to round out the John Carpenter 4-film 4K set that came from Studio Canal. My son and I watched Prince of Darkness and They Live, and I had never seen either of those two films. Of those two films, They Live is probably the more famous, the more well-known pop culturally because of the starring role of Roddy Piper as the lead character, who actually doesn't have a name in the film, but he's called Nada, but I'm assuming that's not his actual name. He's never called by name. He never identifies himself. So Nada is just a placeholder. It's kind of like Blondie for Clint Eastwood in The Man with No Name. It's not his real name. That's just what people call him, but he never calls himself that. So in this case, yeah, it's definitely, sorry, They Live is definitely the more famous of the two remaining films that I hadn't watched. For the starring role by Roddy Piper, as well as the theme of aliens coming to Earth and disguising themselves as humans and essentially brainwashing humanity into being what they are. And it's interesting because it kind of juxtaposes with reality, and a lot of times we wonder, why are we like this way? Why do we do the things that we do? Why are we a consumerist, materialistic? Why do we just go about our humdrum lives, just doing the things that we do? And it's definitely an interesting, I guess, a conspiracy theory explanation for why things are the way they are. And it really did fit in with the Reagan era historical backdrop in which the film is set. Carpenter was obviously making a lot of statements about what life was like in mid-late 80s America, and clearly he didn't like a lot of what he was seeing, and he was just trying to come up with a way to explain it, but as well turn it into an entertaining film. So in terms of how this film looked in both Prince of Darkness, I would say that They Live, among the 4 films, probably looks the worst, but not because it looks bad, but just because it definitely lacks in comparison to Escape from New York and The Fog, both of whom were shot by Dean Cundey, and I think Dean Cundey also directed photography for Prince of Darkness, but he did not do it for They Live. And in terms of They Live, then you can clearly tell how the cinematography was a step down from Cundey's work. Like I said, it's not bad, but it seems a lot more pedestrian, if you will. Kind of almost TV movie-like. Nothing very sweeping or panoramic, or nothing very overly cinematic. Things were shot at a kind of like a eye level, human height level. So yeah, it was definitely lacking in flourishes that would have shown up very well on 4K. There wasn't a lot of color. It was pretty bland in terms of its color palette, from my impression of it. So I would rank They Live the lowest of the 4, and Prince of Darkness is above that because there are a few times in which you do get some really good scenes in the cinematography from Prince of Darkness. And overall, I would say I like Prince of Darkness more because of the overall creepy setting, the concept that Satan himself has been captured within this tank of liquid, and that he kind of spreads his evil by spraying this liquid on people and therefore possessing them. it was interesting. It seemed like a concept that needed to be explored more, possibly in a sequel. But then again, John Carpenter hasn't had a really great record with sequels. I believe Escape from LA is the only sequel to a film that he has actually directed. Um, Halloween 2 he's fairly closely connected to, but he obviously didn't direct that one. So, kind of wish that there was one for Prince of Darkness, because it did seem like there were elements in the film that could have been explored more, and the film itself ends on, I guess, a cliffhanger, if you will, that definitely teased the possibility of something more that could happen, because the climax of the film is that one of the main characters ends up sacrificing themselves in order to stop Satan from continuing his plan and trying to take over the world. And because this character is close to another character, the other character is left obviously saddened and depressed that this character is now gone. And so the remaining character wants to, I guess, somehow try to find the missing character. I think that's the idea that we're left with. Yeah, it definitely did seem like there was more to be seen and more that could be explored. They only kind of touched on the surface, especially some interesting ideas that the protagonists of the film were being were being fed dreams from a radio transmitter, from a radio transmission from the future. And so yeah, that was there was a lot of intriguing things going on, and I definitely wish that we could have gotten more of it. But oh well. I mean, we have what we have, and we just have to enjoy what we have. But then my son hadn't seen The Fog. I had, so we watched that again. We just finished watching that, and it definitely cements in my mind that The Fog is the best looking of the four. By far. A lot of that is helped by the many outdoor scenes. The Fog definitely has the most scenic setting. It's set in a seaside California fishing town, the fictional town of Antonio Bay, but it's probably somewhere along the Northern California coast, either north or south of San Francisco, and those scenes get photographed beautifully. In 4K, they look amazing, with the water and sky and the surrounding landscape. There's a lot of great shots of cars driving along, and just, you know, you can really soak in the scenery in the way that it shows up in 4K, and even the nighttime scenes with the fog really comes out well in 4K with HDR. You can definitely see a lot more detail, especially in the shadows. And you know, everyone talks about the shadow detail when, in terms of the benefits of 4K and of 4K HDR, and you can definitely see that, especially in this film, where you see the fog rolling over the darkened landscape, and you can pick out details in the shadows, even when I guess the ghosts appear in the fog. You can kind of see a little bit of the outline of their faces, things like that. So this set overall is a great set to get. It's definitely worth your money. I think it was $50. It was $50 for the longest time on Amazon, and I haven't checked the price recently, but it's definitely worth it for the four films. And then if you get The Thing along with it, then you have and Halloween, then you have the all of I think I'm pretty sure it's all of John Carpenter's films on 4K as of right now. So yeah, I definitely go out and get the set. It's available. It's definitely worth a buy. But anyway, so that's the review for today, and I definitely want to thank everyone for tuning in, and I will talk to you later. Thanks.